we had to construct two pair of shoes, a men's pair and a women's pair of shoes. And the men's pair of shoes tried to catch the women's pair of shoes parading through San Francisco. Now the shoes were about 15 feet long, and they were made out of foam rubber, and there was some aluminum bars in there, and men would jump inside these shoes and lift them and run. And it was kind of very crazy, as you'll see.
Howdy, all you traders of Russell Coin and Ronald Bucks. It's All You Ever Think About Is Sparks, the podcast all about the music of Sparks, and this is episode 47. I'm your host, Christian Huey, and we have a special treat for you all today. You may recall that I had the privilege of interviewing former Sparks drummer and early MTV star Hilly Michaels back in 2021. Well, he's back! Monte Mallin and I sit down with Hilly Boy and catch up with him and all of his comings and goings in the years since then. You might also recall my tragic announcement last episode that bassist and author Sal Maida passed away recently. Sparks fans in the know will remember Sal as the second half of the meaty and thunderous rhythm section on 1976's Big Beat album. Unfortunately, we interviewed Hilly before any of us had learned of Sal's passing. Otherwise, I'm sure Hilly would have shared his no doubt fond memories of recording and touring with Sal. In brighter, happier news, Ron and Russell Mail are continuing to let us know how mad they are as we inch closer to the release of their 26th album. Trading on their identity as proud Angelinos, Ron and Russell star in a new advertisement for LA Eyewear. Cruising down a palm-lined boulevard in a cherry-red convertible, Ron, the driver, and Russell are suddenly accosted by a flying swarm of spectacles. Yep, a sampling of the eclectic eyewear on offer from LA Eyewear appears out of the blue and descends upon the Mail brothers like bats in some G-rated version of Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas for the visually challenged and or trendy. Ron's now trademark black circular specs settle nicely atop the bridge of his nose, which is definitely a good thing, since I'm not sure if Ron should even be driving without corrective lenses. I don't know, I'd have to see his California driver's license to be sure. A pair of rectangular frames, thicker on the sides than on the top and bottom, adorn Russell's still lovely mug. And I've never seen these glasses on him before, so who knows if he kicks around the house with those on while he's watching the uncut version of the Sparks Brothers on DVD. All the while, Sparks' most recent single and their latest statement of purpose, Do Things My Own Way, sets the mood for the commercial. If you haven't seen it, it's only because your internet algorithms haven't cottoned on yet to the fact that you're a massive Sparks fan. This Hilly-centric episode is part one of a two-parter celebrating the life and work of that New Haven, Connecticut legend, Mr. Hilly Michaels. And now, calling all girls, even the Russian ones, here's Hilly.
There he is. Hey, Hilly.
Hi, Christian. Hi, Monty.
Hey, man. I was doing the math. Last time we talked was 4 years ago. But lots happened.
The last few years, going back to 2022, I was in the studio for about a year, and I did about a half a dozen new songs, and we kept bouncing from studio to studio to studio, and they have ended up at some guy's place, and I'm trying to get copies of everything that I did. I think I sent Monty one of the better tracks, completed ones called You Send Me. I don't know if he remembers that.
Yeah,
these
I
recordings?
think I have it. Yeah.
Was this stuff you were recording with Bill Hall?
Yes, exactly. And I'm trying to resurrect a couple to send over to Tommy Mandel in New York, a lifelong friend. And he was with Brian Adams for 15 years. I played with him in the Ian Hunter McRonson band, and he has always championed any and all projects or records I did. Uh, uh, he said, "Send me a track or two, and I will, put these symphonic hits on this song, and I'll speed this up." I sent him a track, and he said, "Yeah, I could do what you asked." So he's always there for me. I'm really lucky to have him as a friend. That's what I've been doing.
What's going on with those recordings right now? Have they been produced and engineered and mastered and all that stuff?
They haven't been mixed properly, and we kind of ran short budget wise of fully completing them, which is a shame, but I'm getting some rough copies from Bill Hall, and it's a real shame because they were on the cusp of being finished, Christian.
Mm-hmm.
So apart from that, I haven't been doing much of anything. Picking up the guitar every once in a while, and I really haven't been writing like I should be. Although I saw a movie soundtrack the other night, and Leonard Cohen was performing Hallelujah, and he said, like David sang to the Lord, uh, fourth, a fifth, down to a minor for a lift, back to the major. And I immediately, because the song is a masterpiece, and I contacted Tommy and I said, "Tommy, demonstrate, please show me what David played for the Lord. I got to figure this out." So he sent me a demonstration, and he neglected to tell me where the major and the minor was, but I'm talking with him later tonight, and if it goes well, I may have the courage to and energy to take my guitar and build on that Leonard Cohen song, however, with my own melody, and try to write a song or two, and maybe go into New York and try to try to record one or two more songs, and that's it. But I think the well has run dry.
But there's still stuff. There's still stuff that I think needs to be retrieved from the well, or at least next to the well, that hasn't gotten out there yet. That I know I personally would love to hear, including that stuff you did with Bill Hall there.
Yeah, there are some great songs I did, some fantastic tracks that Thomas Ferranti in LA began making videos for.
Mm-hmm.
And I would love to send them to you if Monty doesn't have them. And maybe we could provide a link to where people could go check them out because they're really stunning.
Yeah, that'd be great. I've chatted a little bit with Thomas in the past, and and at the time I didn't really. I guess I didn't realize his connection to you personally, but I'm glad to hear that he's helping get some of that new stuff out.
Yeah, it's old stuff, but you listening to it and watching the videos for it, you would never guess what year it was produced. So I like doing things like that. You know, I like creating pieces that are timeless. And some of those songs, ouch, some of those songs I did with Thomas sound timeless. In addition to Calling All Girls, which I set out to make timeless as a cartoon. And you can't put a timestamp on a cartoon. And that's why I did it. And now I'm getting tapped by all kinds of people that are discovering it. You know, people, you know, teenagers in their 20s that have podcast shows or whatever. And they are extremely interested in Calling All Girls and rediscovering me. And I expect to be doing more of those. And ouch, sorry, and host more due to my former fiance Marianne Faithfull passing away.
Yeah, yeah.
I expect to be deluged from people who want to know the truth about the 2 years she has never ever disclosed to anybody. And there are some unbelievable episodes during those 2 years. I have kept my tongue silent and I have bit my lip and just kept it all bottled inside. But now everyone in their grandson is, I expect, will be coming out with stories. Me and Marianne did this, me and Marianne did that, but nobody knows about the life altering union of us.
Did you keep in touch with her after you guys split up at all?
I saw her once after she got out of Hazelden, that little country club in Minnesota, and she was doing a speaking engagement around the corner at the Gramercy Park, where I happened to be staying in 1990, and she was on stage, and she saw me walk in. I had a broken ankle. I was on crutches. It was kind of hard to miss. And she glanced at me. This is 5 years later. And she began chain smoking on stage. And after the engagement, I saw her backstage and we embraced and kind of kissed. And that was the last time I ever had any communication with her.
Wow. So you mentioned that you've been getting people reaching out to you, some younger people doing podcasts, much like mine and Monty's. Has that picked up since say the Sparks documentary?
Yeah, and not much like yours, you and Monty's. I mean, I wish they were on the caliber of professionalism that of you and Monty, of what you and Monty have done. Monty did such a supreme editing job in questions. I mean, I got to take my hat off to Monty. He made me sound really, really good. Thank you again, Monty, for that incredible episode.
No, making you sound good was easy. Make sure you look at the comments that people are leaving on the YouTube page, because you're very endearing. People really appreciated your personal touch, and that you seem to speak from the heart about how you felt about Ron and Russell and about the whole experience, really.
Yeah, I did check out those comments, and they were very heartwarming, and I appreciated them a lot. And just about everything that comes out of my mouth is from the heart.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Someone wanted the Mick Ronson tapes, and
Mm,
you'll see my comment as well. Those are a little hard to get.
yeah.
Yeah, I had one CD left over. I was hiding about 90 minutes of that fateful uh, jam doing the big beat songs. And I gave it up to Ron and Russell. I don't think they had as much material, even though everyone had their tape recorders going. Mine was on pretty much the entire time. So I gifted my CD copy over to Ron and Russell uh, about 2 years ago. And I thought to myself, it would be really uh, not tasteful and wrong to release that to anybody other than, for personal pleasure. I'm sure if I held on to it and sold it, I could probably get $20,000, $50,000 for it.
Could be.
I mean,
Yeah.
it was an awesome recording.
The Mick Ronson tapes.
Yeah.
I think I got. God, I think you shared some of those with me.
If I did,
I've
God
got.
bless you. You're lucky.
It was a while ago. I'll have to dig
Oh,
through
wait
my
a minute.
stuff.
I think I did.
I
Yeah.
think you did. Yeah. I think this, if I remember correctly, unless I'm thinking about some other recordings, the sound quality wasn't so great.
No.
But it was, the magic was there.
Oh, yeah. Good
Um,
for you. Good for
yeah.
you.
Wow.
Thanks for that.
Wow.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
We'll talk. Yeah. So speaking of speaking of Ron and Russ, and I know you guys already talked about that for this episode that just came out, Monty. But I went back and I listened to "Calling All Girls," the album, not just the song. And there are a few tracks in there that really stand out and kind of. And I remember you saying that you were a big early fan of Sparks, and there were a couple of songs on that album. I'm like, man, this kind of sounds like old Sparks when they were
I
just
was heavily
bonkers.
influenced by them. Super saturated.
U.S.
Having,
Mail.
huh?
I was listening to U.S. Mail today, and like,
Oh my God. Yeah. One of my
first off,
favorites.
if you had, did Ron and Russell ever hear that U.S. Mail? Mael even. I mean, they would eat that up.
I don't
Fantastic.
think we ever discussed it, but we did have a meeting after that album came out at Farmers Market. Me, Ronnie, Russell, and uh, Russell's old girlfriend, who was on my arm at the time. And we sat outside, and we didn't really discuss any of my music in depth, but U.S. Mail, uh,
Mm-hmm.
Something on Your Mind.
That too. Oh my goodness, you've got that kind of faux operatic vocals going
Yeah,
on. It's
yeah. I was paying homage to Sparks on a lot of that
yeah,
album.
yeah.
And
Plays through in it.
what I should have done, shoulda, woulda, coulda, is called up Ron and Russell, flew them up to New York, and had them participate in the record. But my record producer, uh, he was really, really strict
Who's
and
that?
Roy Thomas Baker.
Right.
He
Right.
didn't want me to bring anybody in on the record I had played drums for. You have to disassociate yourself from anyone you played drums with. And I said, well, why? I want Mick Ronson on there. I want Ian Hunter on there. I want Sparks on there. I want this one and that one. No, no, no. You can't. You can't. And because of his weight in the industry and pull and power, and my manager just going along with whatever Roy dictated,
Mhm.
I was not able to bring up Ron and Russell and have them play on the record. And Roy and I butted heads about a lot of stuff. 3 times in particular, after the session, he packed up and flew back to California, threatening not to come back and finish the record because he thought me and Dan Hartman were running away with the production, which is something me and Dan discussed prior to the production with Roy. I said, Dan, listen, he is not a Michael Chapman. He is not a Todd. He is a very genius engineer, but we're not getting along in the studio.
You hear the band, you hear the band, you hear the music and let go of my hand. You know you're driving me crazy, well baby you can't sit still. I take you out and always blow all I got, just to get me a moment alone with you. I wanna show you I love you, but never can get the chance. You don't want to sit in the back of the movies, you don't want to drive to Lover's Lane. Whenever you are free, you go out with me, all you wanna do is shake it and dance, shake it and dance, shake it and dance, dance, dance all night. You wanna keep moving, you gotta keep grooving, I never can get too close to you. Just shake it and dance, shake it and dance, shake it and dance the night away. Yes I know, yeah I know, yeah I know. My baby she likes to dance, my baby she likes to.
He put Greg Hawkes on that record, though, didn't he? For the
Oh
Cars.
yes, he put his buddies on there.
Mhm.
Greg Hawkes. I didn't, Greg came up with genius parts for the Cars, and Davy Johnstone, is a brilliant guitar player, and I appreciated Davy, but I wanted Mick too, and I wasn't thrilled with Greg Hawkes, all the parts he put on, and I had arguments with Roy. It's too spready. It's filling up all the air, and Roy tended to get his own way, and I just had to, concede.
But in
to Roy.
retrospect, are you happy with the sound of it? Are you happy that it came out the way it did, even if it wasn't exactly how you had imagined it?
That's a dangerous question. Yes and no. Michael Chapman, had he been my producer, I'm not sure we'd be having this conversation. I would have had 4 or 5 top 10 hits. So the mix of things, the snare drum was louder than my vocal.
It is loud.
He wasn't a big fan of my voice.
Oh.
So why did he agree to be the producer?
I don't know. He thought that I sounded like a cross between ABBA and another band, and he thought, along with everyone at Warner Brothers, that I was going to be the next pop sensation, the cartoon guy. I had the whole thing mapped out and planned out that I wanted to be this cartoon character come to life. But why did he agree to, when it came for the lead vocals, he was kind of abusive to me. And he didn't want to do the tricks that I knew if we had done, my lead vocal would have sounded a lot louder, a lot better. And like, you know, I just got buried. You know, people were telling me what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. And the amount of money they paid me to sign to Warner Brothers, along with Chapel Music, I found it really difficult to speak up on my behalf. And, you know, all the greats, Jerry Wexler, Mo Austin, all the people at Warner Brothers loved my original idea, loved my demos. And when Roy finished the mix, I had a meeting with Warner Brothers. And I said, listen, my demos that got me signed to you guys are more exciting than the actual record. Why don't we release my demos? They
What
have,
did they think of that?
they said, oh, Hilly, we can't do that. We can't do that. The record sounds fantastic.
I mean, Calling
And-
All Girls as a single did great.
Yeah, more or less, it did great. I should have had a top 10 record with Calling All Girls and several others on there. Gemini,
Shake It, Dance.
is Shake It and Dance, US Mail with edits, Turn Me On Your Radio. I mean, they were all just super, super crafted, you know, hooky pop songs. But Roy had his own idea. And, you know, it's Hilly Michaels, the unknown singer, artist, drummer, against Roy Thomas Baker, who had platinum and production credit with Queen, Foreigner, Journey, Yes, Alice Cooper, and the girl from ABBA, Dusty Springfield. How am I going to argue with this guy and argue my case to Warner Brothers? So there are some fantastic moments on the record, and there's a lot of it I would have done a lot differently. And me and Dan Harmon were in a boxing ring with Roy Thomas Baker month after month after month. And he left the studio in a huff, flew back to California. And if Hilly and Dan don't stop producing this record, I am not coming back to finish it. And I was like, yeah, keep your promise. But I would get phone calls from my manager and Warner Brothers, Hilly, you have to call him and really pacify him and tell him what a great producer and what a great job he's doing and how much you love him. And I had too many of these conversations with Roy to get him back into the studio. But the important thing to remember is I was a solo artist. I did not have a band like Foreigner, like Journey, like Yes. I did not have, or the Cars. I was doing piecemeal work with super talented friends. So I was piecing together all my music, and Roy did not know how to do a solo artist. And if
Maybe
you listen
that's
to,
it. Maybe that's what it was. He did Dusty Springfield, you mentioned, but maybe in I like that. That seems to be a valid point.
Oh yeah, yeah. Dusty Springfield's record didn't do anything
Yeah.
because she was a solo artist. And same with the girl from ABBA.
Hmm.
Same thing. You never heard Hashintosh about any of her things. Uh, my friend Kazim Sultan was being produced by Roy, and he stopped the record completely. And he was from my world. And I couldn't imagine why. I never spoke to Kazim. What happened? How come you're not using Roy? But, I had meetings with Roy Thomas Baker before I began the actual production. And just from my conversations with him, I told my manager in Warner Brothers, he's not the perfect producer for me. Please. But Hilly, he's the number one album producer in the world. You have to use him. He loves you. And we love the fact that he loves you. And he's the number one record producer. But Michael Chapman was distraught that he didn't have a chance to produce me. Had Michael Chapman produced me, again, I would have had 5 top 10 singles, maybe a number one here and there, because he knew how to deal with solo artists.
Mm.
So
So,
Hilly, there's two threads I'd like to explore a little bit, and one of them is picking up on what you're saying here, something you said here, and then the other is something that I think would be interesting. So, Christian, if this is okay with you, the two things are: one, how did you go from the end of our, at the end of our story, you were told, guys, it was great having you as part of Sparks, and you had written some songs, but you were told, guys, it was great having you as part of Sparks, but we're going a different direction. I'm interested in how you went from there to the point of deciding what you wanted to do as a solo artist and how that led to the experience that you've just been talking about. And the other thing I'm really interested in is after, the other thing I'm really interested in is that you had this idea of a cartoon character come to life. You had kind of a whole vision for how your solo career would look like. And I'm hoping you can elaborate on that a little bit. But Christian, I'll leave it to you to kind of sort all this out. But those are the two interesting things to me.
Nope, those were great, and of course, I would just add to that. Please talk about the video and how that came about. Unless you guys already discussed that, I haven't
No,
listened.
definitely. Let's talk about that.
well, I began compiling songs with Jimmy in our motel room, waiting to
Jimmy
hear
McAllister. I'm just
Jimmy
interrupting.
McAllister. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, let's put a band together called the Grumpkins, the Grumpkins, and let's make it like, the hard pop Archies come to life.
Yeah,
And we'll be cartoon characters and we'll be the Grumpkins, you, me, and Sal. And I began writing songs out there, waiting for, the next Sparks record. It never happened. We got sent back to New York, and we were called the Sparks Backup Band. And we did a ton of work as session players for other artists because of our celebrity playing with Sparks and doing big beat. And as soon as I got back to New York, I wanted to record Calling All Girls, Gemini, and a couple others. So I contacted Rupert and I kept hounding him. Listen, you have to help me. I want to go into the studio and bring these songs to life. Please help me with the production of these. And long story short, he came down 4 times to a studio I had booked, and he laid down an incredible foundation of tracks, basic tracks. And still, all the while, everyone was tapping me to play drums on this record, that record, and so many records. And a lot of big sound artists at the time here in Wallingford, Connecticut, Big Sound Records. I did 2 albums for Roger C. Real, the Van Duren album. And when I met Dan Hartman, it was drum, 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 drum. And when Dan found out during our first conversation that I was the former band member with Sparks, he flipped out. He said, "They're my favorite band. You got to come up here and let's do the Dan Hartman band together. Help me put it together." And I moved into his home in Westport. He had a 24-track studio on the 3rd or 4th floor of this huge English New England home in Westport. And at some point, I said, "Dan, would you help me finish up these songs I've been kind of, working on over the past couple of years?" And he said, "Sure, I would love to." So me and Dan spent weeks on my demos until they sounded perfect. And I kept them in my drum bag, a 1/4-inch copy of them, and I'd play them for this person. Dan Hartman loved them. Edgar Winter, who I had the immense pleasure of being roommates with out in Beverly Hills, he was like my idol, and Dan was working with him, and Dan got us a beautiful suite. And here I'm meeting Edgar, and he said, "Let me hear your music." Dan said, "They're really good." Edgar loved them. He wanted to hear them every night. And Genya Raven said, "Do you realize what you have here?" I said, "No, not really." And I wasn't playing them, to too many people, because I thought, well, let me backtrack. Rupert told me while we were doing them that he was recording full-blown tracks and selling his master songs to people, record companies over in Europe for like $30,000-$40,000 a track. And I said, "That's what I want to do." I never dreamed of becoming a solo artist, except for that, toyful, playful Grumpkins idea. So I send tons of songs out to record companies over in Europe, including the Bay City Rollers, and they borrowed heavily on a couple of my songs. But all the feedback I was getting, "We're not interested in buying your masters, Hilly, but we are interested in signing you to a recording contract." Nice. And me and my cousin, Kip Saginaw, who did all the lyrics for a large portion of those songs, I said, I don't want to go to Europe. I don't want to be a recording artist. I'm very happy being a drummer. And I turned down all these offers. Nobody wanted to buy my masters for $30,000, $40,000 a pop. So one day, right before Ronson called me up to work with Ellen Foley on her debut record and do the You Never Along with the Schizophrenic tour with Ian, I got a call from Liz Derringer, Rick's wife. She said, you have to meet this guy, Jake Hooker. He's married to Lorna Luft. He used to be a big pop star in England, had his own TV show. He needs a drummer to be on the Jerry Lewis telethon. And you have to go over and talk to him, because I told him that you have been doing 6 months of nonstop lip syncing all over Europe and all over America. And he's very interested in your lip syncing abilities. So I went over to Jake Hooker's, and there was Toto in the apartment. There was the ruby slipper, and I was just zonked out. I was zonked out, meaning I was so knocked out that I was hanging out with, him and Lorna Luft, and the ruby slipper, which I had on my lap, that I was like stroking. Oh my God, this is the real slipper here. And before I left, because my schedule wouldn't allow me this one spot to do the telethon with Jake, and he had just signed a new recording contract here. I said, listen, you like pop music a lot, and I put these songs together, and I threw some names out. I said, would you be interested in having a listen? And he said, and his phone's ringing off the hook. I'm out the door already. It was like a second thought. And he said, sure, come back in. I'll have a quick listen. And he puts on Calling All Girls, and he jumps up 20 seconds later, turns off the tape recorder, and said, who is this? I said, it's me. And he said, who wrote these? Me. Who produced these? Mostly me. Dan Hartman, Rupert Holmes. Who's singing? Who's playing drum? Who wrote? He said, what do you? Oh my God. And he gets back up and he starts it all over again. And he plays my music. And he said, listen, you're, a pretty employable drummer, obviously, but I could get you a worldwide recording contract within 2 weeks. And I said, well, I don't really want a worldwide recording contract. He said, are you crazy? I said, maybe I am. And then I said, well, if you could get me a recording contract in like Denmark, where I had been before producing a group in Copenhagen, or Bavaria, Germany, or one of these really exotic islands in the Netherlands. I said, if you get me a small, kind of cushy recording contract where I be a big fish in a small pond with a couple of hits, sure. And he said, listen, I could do better than that. I said, oh, look, take this copy. I have another one, and let me know. And he calls me up within a week and he said, are you sitting down? I just got you a worldwide $1 million recording contract with Warner Brothers. They flipped out over your stuff. I said, really? Why'd you do that? I told you. I was kind of angry that he had done it at first, but then he started throwing these numbers and names at me, and I conceded, and I said, well, what about your new record deal? And you're managing your wife, Lorna. He said, I will break my recording contract and manage you and manage Lorna Luft, my wife. I said, okay, but I have to go out and tour with Hunter Ronson. I gave them my word that I would go out and tour live with them. And after that, I could sign the deal and we could do this. And I threw some names out, like Michael Chapman. And at the end of the Hunter Ronson gig, he said, Roy Thomas Baker just went bonkers over your stuff and is calling Warner Brothers every day. He's calling your boss, Ian Hunter. Who is this Hilly Michaels? You got drumming for him. I'm going to produce this guy. And that's what happened. And it was like a tidal wave of a whole new world. Oh, wait a minute. I'm going to be singing and playing with my own band, and I'm going to be performing in front of anywhere from 100 people to 10,000 people. Oh, wow. Okay, I'll do it. And after the Hunter Ronson thing ended, I signed the deal and began writing songs for another 5 months until Roy finished up another Cars album and another record he was doing. But in the winter of '79, we began production on Calling All Girls with Roy Thomas Baker. And then I had a Mexican standoff with Warner's. And they said, you have to go out and tour now, second bill, and win over tens of thousands of people at a show. We'll get you on with this one and that one as an opening act. And I thought to myself, being so insecure about being a frontman and not sounding like Rod Stewart or Bruce Springsteen, I wasn't that kind of ballsy, gutsy, knockout singer. I was a little insecure, and I said to them, I'll do it if you get me a charted record. You get me, in the top 40 or top 10 with a hit record, and I will definitely go out and promote it.
East to west anticipating, you know that I'm always there on time. But there's no need for alarm, dear. To keep me from your arms would be a crime. Yes, I'm your U.S. mail, specially for you. Yes, I'm your U.S. mail, red and white and blue. U.S., 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 I'm your U.S. mail. U.S., 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 he's my U.S. I'm your U.S. mail. U.S., 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 I'm your U.S. mail. U.S., 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 I'm your U.S. mail. U.S., 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 I'm your U.S. mail. U.S., 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 I'm your U.S. mail. U.S., 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 I'm your U.S. mail. U.S., 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 I'm your U.S. mail. U.S., 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 I'm your U.S. mail. U.S., 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 I'm your U.S. mail.
And they said, no, 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 no. You have to work up a following. And I said, no, no, no. You get me a hit record that's zooming up the charts, and I will go out. And we had like a Mexican standoff, and I refused to go out unless I had a hit record that was obvious climbing up the charts, and they failed to do it. And I blame everything on Roy Thomas Baker, of course. And he missed the mark. He's brilliant. He's genius for certain things he does musically, but he was not the right producer for me. And if he hears this, it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah.
Now, Roy Thomas Baker did not come up with all those parts on Bohemian Rhapsody. That was
Right.
Queen. That was Freddie Mercury in the band coming up with every one of those parts. But he got production credit because he was a groovy, funny guy. And it was champagne and cocaine. And during my record, all in New York City, and people who I won't mention, it was all champagne and cocaine. And there was just way too much of it. And I wasn't into champagne and cocaine, but everyone else involved in my record was doing it in excess. And I got to do a second record called Lumia.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And
when is that going to be re-released? I would love to get an official release of Lumia again.
Well, again, my producer.
And who was that producer, by the way? That wasn't Roy, was it?
No, it was Rupert Holmes, former engineer, Jeffrey Lesser. And I threw some names out to Warner Brothers to produce my record. And they said, no. Dan, why can't Dan Hartman produce it? Jeffrey Lesser is like an engineer. No, we're going to pair you up with Jeffrey Lesser. And then
did they not like Dan Hartman? I mean, it seems like they always just said no to Dan Hartman.
I don't get it. I don't freaking get it. Dan would have been an amazing producer for me. He wasn't champagne and cocaine at all. The champagne cocaine crew, for Lumia. And I was not happy with Jeffrey's production.
Yeah.
And I think there's too much sibilance on those songs. And, we parted ways. We parted company, not on good terms.
That's too bad.
Look, I knew how to produce a record by that point, and I knew from my mistakes from calling all girls. But Jeffrey was strong arming me, and again, a mispairing, a mismatch for me, and I began losing my confidence as being a pop cartoon, zany pop cartoon artist. And I began trying to do serious ballads and writing with Michael Brown from the Left Bank, Pretty Ballerina. He was influencing me. And Mort Walker's son, Beetle Bailey's son, Morgan Walker, was influencing me. And I was doing material I should never have gone near on Lumia. And the sonics on it were bad. And I was like king of the wrong moves. Or I wasn't wearing, steel-toed shoes at the time and didn't know how to kick somebody in the behind and say, no, this is wrong. You're out of here. So there you go. And after that, I became a marketing manager in 1990 for 10 years and working for symphony orchestras and ballets all over the country for 10 years. And I got burnt out on that, even though I was in the top 5% of 50 managers all over the country. I decided I wanted to get back into music. So in 2009, I quit. I was working like 70-hour weeks. And I said, I can't do this anymore. And I miss making music. So I put Pop This together. And that took 18 months. And I went to England to master and do some mixing on it with Kevin James Hook, uh, who was a huge Sparks fan. And I put out Pop This and met Thomas Ferranti, who began.
How did you decide, Hilly? How did you decide which songs? Because some of the songs on there were remakes, were re-recordings of songs you did earlier. How did you
That's
decide
right.
which one of those you wanted to do?
That's right. I only
Russian Girls
cut
is on there, and that's one of my favorites.
which one?
Russian Girls.
Yeah, Russian Girls was mainly me and Kevin James Hook in England working on the track, sending them back to Connecticut. And Someone's Waiting for You is a timeless gem. And there's a few others on that record that are gems. But they were all demos I had recorded throughout my life. And I took the cassettes and was at a studio with a guy. And I said, look, denoise, let's do some sound with sound on top of sound. And you're right, very astute observation. They were demos. And I thought, heck, why not? Let everyone hear these demos that nobody's ever heard before, that have been sitting in my garbage bag full of 500 other cassettes. And it was a painstaking process choosing what songs out of, 100 songs to do. And it was all sound on top of sound, or sound with sound, sneaking in guitar parts, sneaking in drums, sneaking in background harmonies. And it was kind of like a puzzle,
Yeah.
sticking things on top of demos. That you're right. A lot of those songs were just demos I decided to enhance. And I signed with CD Baby. I sold about 1,000 hard copies and tons of, licensing things. And that died down. And I began visiting other studios after that. And I have a ton of music at this guy's studio and that guy's studio from 2011 all the way up to 2022. And I have yet to find the money to go back in there and finish those songs.
Well, I noticed you've got some stuff that's more recent than the pop, the one you just mentioned. I'm sorry.
Pop This.
Yeah, Pop This. Yeah, you've got some tracks that are more recent than that up on your YouTube. It looks like, or maybe your SoundCloud. But I don't know if that's I don't know if you're the one who's maintaining those.
No, I have nothing to do with my SoundCloud or Bandcamp. Thomas Ferranti, God bless him, he's been managing my Facebook music page, and he's responsible for posting a lot of music on the internet. I have no idea what is on the internet of mine. All kinds of things. All kinds of things. Gigs with Ronnie Wood and Don Covey.
I was gonna ask about the Ronnie Wood stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. I was asked by this guy, John Tiven, to play for Don Covey in 1990.
Yeah.
And I had no idea who Don Covey was, but I quickly came to find out who he was. And we put a band together, and then suddenly we're going to Florida. Ronnie Wood loves Don. All the Stones love Don Covey, but Ronnie Wood decided he wanted us, or Don and the band, to come to his club and perform for 2 nights with Ronnie, on stage for the whole set. Harvey Mandel, the great blues guitar player, the Stones saxophone player. I'm sorry, I can't remember your name. And some really, really cool people. 2 nights. It was filmed for Showtime, like 4 or 5 cameras going, but champagne and cocaine. What can I tell you?
You're kidding me. Ronnie Wood? No way.
Champagne and cocaine.
Well, he's cleaned up quite a bit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that's a great story. 'Cause Ronnie Wood's one of my great heroes. I'm a Stones fan, first and foremost. Or, well, I guess tied for first and foremost.
And we had a lot in common, me and Ronnie, because
Is that right?
yeah, I used to see the Stones all the time when I was cutting a record with Marianne Faithfull, and as we were packing up, the Rolling Stones were coming up, setting up to begin their record in '85. So I knew him from those times, and we had Roy Thomas Baker's stories to share. And he was, I love that guy. He's an incredible guitarist.
Absolutely.
And an amazing painter.
Mm-hmm.
And I was thrilled to death to play with Ronnie. And yeah, that was 1990. And then I got married to a Peruvian girl I met on a beach in the Dominican Republic. And she asked me to quit music because she was jealous. I was locking myself in my music room for up to 4 or 5 hours and began crying. And I don't like being alone in the bedroom watching TV. I said, okay, Mary, I will do this for you. And I had a production company called Chewable Music, and I had been producing about a dozen bands from the Connecticut area very successfully. And I stopped that. And Mary and I moved to Florida. And I became wrapped up in the Board of Tourism, working for the Florida Board of Tourism, promoting cruises and rides, sightseeing. And I did that for about 8 years. And then it was I got a divorce. I came back here. I began producing Orrin Bolton, Michael Bolton's older brother, who just passed away, unfortunately. And I helped him with his album in 2001 and 2002. And then I got tapped to be with SDNA telesales for the fine arts. And I think I'm repeating myself now.
No, but you just mentioned the Bolton connection, and as I recall from our conversation, it actually started a little bit before Michael Bolton when you were touring with some smaller bands, but it led up to Michael Bolton, or vice versa, maybe. But that's kind of it. It was kind of coming full circle, right?
I grew up with Michael Bolton. I was playing in bands with Michael Bolton, cover bands, and some originals when I was 18, 17 and 18. And uh, we sounded great. And, Michael sounded like, Joe Cocker and a few others. And somebody heard our demos in California, some friends, and they flew us out there and we signed a recording contract and began working on an album. And I think we got up to 7 or 8 songs, and the record company kind of folded. We're recording a lot at Sound City in Van Nuys. Is a very, very mythical recording studio. And yeah, uh, nothing happened to that record, but I did join another very Beatle sounding band, Peach and Lee, and moved to Omaha after recording a single on RCA with them in New York. And they went to Omaha to see if the single was going to take off. It never did. And I went to Omaha and we played about 100 to 150 cover band and originals all over the Midwest. And I played with this very heavily sounding Beatle team for 4 years and did a ton of recording with them. And I went back, I left that, and it's funny. We had recorded 18 songs or something, and they had let me record 2 of my pop tunes, and we were signed to London Records at the time. And the guy from London Records, this is 1972 or 73, and he listens to all the songs, and he hears one of my songs, and we thought we were going to get this huge deal with London Records, but he calls me outside after he listens to one of my pop tunes. He said, "Listen, you wrote that song, Rose of India?" I said, "Yes, I did." He said, "Listen, if you keep writing songs like that, you're going to be a superstar. You're going to be turning out hit records. I love what you did with Peach and Lee, but your song sounds like a #1 pop song." And so the thing with Peach and Lee ran its course. Those words never left my head. And I moved back to Connecticut in 73, 74, began drumming for Cherry Vanilla. But also, Michael Bolton was doing his second record for RCA Records, asked me to drum for him once again. We did a record called Every Day of My Life in Montreal, Canada. And nothing happened with that. And I went to New York to play with Cherry Vanilla. And that's where I met Mick Ronson and a host of other incredible people. God bless you, Cherry Vanilla. She changed my life. And from Cherry Vanilla directly to Mick Ronson, Hilly, move in here. I want you to be my drummer. And I was living at Mick's Brownstone for like a year and a half, 2 years on and off, and playing and recording with Mick. And he taught me so much about music and production and arranging. And that's when John Cougar came over, and I got to play drums on his debut record, John Cougar.
Yeah. Mellencamp. Yeah.
And then Sparks came over, and Mick said, "Look, we sounded amazing, yes, and yes, it's easy for me to step into that position as lead guitar player, but they put some demands on me, and I don't have the time to do it. I love what we did. I love Sparks, but Hilly, you go out and play with Sparks, do the record, join the band. Don't worry about the Mick Ronson band. I love you. We'll hook up later sometime." And of course, we did
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
after Sparks.
Yeah, and I think we covered a lot of that in our conversation. So this is really seamless. You're giving a great. You're really bringing the whole story together, and that's really great. It's great
Oh,
to have
great.
that. Yeah, and I have to go soon. I'm sorry, but I do have a question. What, as a drummer myself, what led
Oh,
you?
right.
What led you to decide to become a drummer, and who were your influences way back when?
You're a roots lay it down drummer, Monte. I love your drawing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah. The question was, what was?
What led young Hilly Michaels to become a drummer, and who were some of your influences?
Well, my parents came back from the Bahamas when I was 10. They handed me a set of bongos. My sister was an avid Motown freak, a music freak, 4 years older than me. And I used to play the bongos with brand new pencils and play them like drums to all these songs, year after year, until I was 12 years old, and we had a auditorium surprise after the Beatles had come out, and we all went to the auditorium in the 6th grade, and suddenly the curtain opens, and there's 4 of my classmates playing Beatles songs, and I zoned in on the drummer, and I said, "That guy is playing drums. I could do that." And that he inspired me to get a set of drums from my parents. And I began playing drums when I was 13, 14, 15 years old around New Haven, Connecticut, with a couple of cover bands, including Michael Bolton. And my sister turned me I was smitten with Frank Zappa and the Mothers of Invention when I was like 14, 15. I bought every record they had, and I was smitten with the Velvet Underground. I had such far out tastes compared to my
Well,
friends
wait,
and peers.
going back to Frank Zappa just for a second. They had a few drummers, of course, but one of them was a guy named Chester Thompson. Are you familiar with him?
No, but I
Okay.
know Zappa had a few drummers,
I thought you were going to talk about Terry Bozzio.
Terry
Yeah.
Bozzio, amazing drummer. But Zappa's sensibilities just struck a nerve in me, and I couldn't get anybody else interested in them. And I was, listening to Moby Grape, The Seeds, The Left Bank, but a lot of Frank Zappa and a lot of Andy Warhol's Velvet Underground. And I had an incredible well of music to draw upon. And my sister turned me on to so much Motown and Hendrix and Crosby, Stills and Nash and Young and Led Zeppelin. And then I'll skip to right after I came back from Sparks, I was buying every pop record out there and listening to them for 3-4 hours a day, treadmilling on my stationary bicycle, doing cardio workouts, listening to Slade, The Sweet, Donnie and Marie, you name it. I was buying records and playing them down to the grooves. And I drew upon all that music from being Zappa, uh, Velvet Underground, The Sweet, Slade, so many pop bands, even the Bay City Rollers, I was a big fan of. And I logged all this material in me. And when it came time to do my demos after Sparks, Sparks and Frank Zappa, you could kind of, there are some similarities here and there,
Yeah.
tongue in cheek, but I was so smitten with Sparks as well. I heard them once when I was in Omaha on the radio, and I thought it was the best song I had heard probably up to that point in my life. And then when I was 25, 26, I went out and bought every Sparks record and was playing them every day. Come On to My House, Propaganda, and Indiscreet. And I fell in love with that band. I said, this is my favorite band. When I saw them on TV, I said, this is the band. This is my favorite band in the world. Why can't I play with a band like this?
And you
And
did.
I ended up doing it.
You did, yeah. And the other side of the coin, I asked about who some of your influences were, and the other side of the coin is you have no doubt influenced a ton of drummers.
You think so?
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
That's, oh,
It's something for
I'm
you.
happy.
Yeah, and I mean, there was someone when I posted our interview, there was someone who was so grateful, and he said that along with Charlie Watts and Dinky Diamond, Hilly is my other all-time favorite drummer.
Dang.
Oh my God, that's
Yeah,
super
but
to hear.
honestly, I don't think I'm alone. I don't think he's alone. I mean, you had, I'm sure you influenced a lot of people.
Well, I mean,
Yeah, go ahead.
certainly if we talk about the Sparks canon, you cannot talk about drummers without talking about Hilly, without a doubt. One of the most
yeah, I'm glad I
drum
stood
sounds
out.
on that
As
album.
controversial a record it was, I don't think even Ron and Russell know whether to love it or hate it. They're at odds with it. And we did that great movie, Roller Coaster, out in California together at Magic Mountain. And listen, I worship those guys. And whatever they told me, they did a total image overhaul on me. They changed my name from Hilly Michaels, Hilly J. Michaels to Hilly Boy Michaels.
Oh,
They
that's right.
cut off all my hair.
Is that where that came from? Hilly Boy?
That's
from
what they
them?
called me, I
I
think.
didn't know that. I thought that
I
was
didn't know
just
that either.
your name at the time.
Yeah.
funny.
And Russell and Ronnie just gave me a whole new image. Hilly Boy. And really short purple headed hair. And I loved it. I loved everything Ronnie and Russell did. And I was lucky enough to be included on our daytime, midnight, whatever we were doing together, watching artsy movies or hanging out at uh, farmer's market and doing absolutely nothing except eating bagel peelings and ricotta cheese, talking about music and the band and what we're going to do. I,
Yeah.
you know, I had to pinch myself being with Ron and Russell.
Right. Well, Hilly, I know we've taken up a lot of your time and we have to wrap it up, but my guess, and I would never presume to know, okay? I would never presume to know, but my guess is that they feel about Big Beat probably something like you feel about Calling All Girls, that it was great material, but the production wasn't just right for the material they were trying to present. So as I hear you talk, I just couldn't help making that parallel in my mind. And again, I want to be clear, I don't know, but that would be my guess.
On the other hand, they did crank Hilly's drums up, which is definitely a good
Well,
thing.
you got to listen to the interview, Hilly, because what you'll hear, Christian, is because what you'll hear is that Rupert Holmes loved his drumming.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but we don't want to repeat ourselves. So.
Right. We'll get to it. Man, I so appreciated getting the chance to talk to you again, Hilly. I realized we could go on for hours and hours and hours, at least from my point of view. But
You
thanks
guys are so easy to talk with. I love talking with you guys.
Well, for us, it's our great pleasure and honor. And I think, Christian, we have such a great amount of material to really, maybe not in a linear way, but we can get the whole story of of Hilly's career out there in his life.
Maybe we could provide a link for some videos and include Thomas.
Without a doubt, I'd be more than happy to do that. And I'm sure Thomas
thank you. And maybe do a follow-up with me and Sal Maida about Sparks.
Oh, heck yeah. Sal,
well, all right. I'm taking credit here. What I suggested that some of the comments we got were, well, we want to hear more about Big Beat. So I suggested that you and Sal come together, and I'm going to officially invite Christian. We'll make it, because he asks really good technical questions, so much better than I do. So we'll have the four of us, and I will arrange that, and we'll do it sometime soon.
Right. Great. Sal Maida is one of the two best bass players I ever played with in my entire life.
Yeah, you guys were.
All right, who's the other?
Yep.
And I played with a lot of bass
Who's
players.
the other?
Okay. And
wait, Hilly, who's the other bass player that you put up there? You said one of the
Roger C. Real. I did 2 albums for him, and the second one, I invited Mick Ronson to come down, and it was balls to the wall. I mean, incredible, powerful stuff. It's Roger C. Real, and that guy, I mean, he played bass, and it sounded like, a train engine going like 200 miles an hour. And I did his first album with G.E. Smith. That's when I found G.E. and brought him to Dan. And then the second album, a year later, I had played the first album to Ronson, and Ronson flipped out. He said, "Who is this? Oh my God, I want to do the next album with you." So a year later, I tapped Mick. I said, "We're doing the second record with Roger C. Real." And Mick loved Roger C. Real's bass playing too. But me and Sal had some amazing connection.
For sure.
Yeah,
No
no
doubt.
question. All
And
right.
look, this Marianne Faithfull thing is going to start blowing up big time, and people are going to come out of the woodwork. And I have a story that I have been sitting on since 1985. And about the 2 years I was with her and brought her back to life, got her re signed to Island Records. And it was a life altering, incredible experience with Marianne. Uh, I loved her so much. We loved each other so much. We couldn't be apart longer than a few hours for the first 15 months.
Wow.
But if you ever want to entertain doing a segment about me and Marianne, I
Oh, yeah.
could tell you some things that would make people's jaws drop. Not bad things.
Okay. Yeah, because we're all big admirers of her.
Oh, yeah. I would love to follow up on that.
All right, we'll do that too.
All right. Hilly, once
Oh
again,
yeah.
man, so great. And I would love to talk to you again soon, man.
Hey Christian, thank you so much for allowing me to chat with you guys. Thank you so much, Monty, for allowing this part 2 to come out. And God bless you guys both of you guys. You
You
have
too.
great musical taste. And I may ask you for a copy of that Sparks Ronson rehearsal, Christian.
Oh, man, I thought you sent it to me.
I know, but
Somebody did.
I
I'll
gave
go
my
for my.
word. I gave my word to
I'm
Ron Russell that I would give it up, and I did.
I can almost guarantee I have it, and yeah, I'll get back with you on that.
Okay, get back to me on that.